clarinet players, it is Miss Ramsey here, and I am making a video about your clarinet. So your goal is to watch this before your next class so you know all the parts of your clarinet already. And you are nice and proficient on knowing all the different parts because you're getting your instruments next week. So at some point in this video, I'm going to tell you guys a secret word, and that is your word that proves that you watched the video. So at that point in time, when I say that secret word, you want to make sure you write that down because you're going to need that to prove that you watched today's video. So this is a clarinet. The clarinet is a woodwind instrument, and woodwind instruments are the clarinet, the alto saxophone, and the flute. And the reason the clarinet and the alto saxophone are woodwinds is because they have this reed that's made out of wood. Now the flute does not have a reed, but the reason it's called a woodwind is because back in the day it used to be made out of wood. So that is why. So you play a woodwind instrument. Your clarinet has more parts than any of the other 5th grade instruments. So it has quite a few pieces. It is a fairly fragile instrument because it has all of these different keys. These are keys, not buttons, they're keys. And if they get bent, then it means certain holes won't close, which means notes won't come out correctly. So we've got to be very careful when handling our instruments. So we're going to go over all the little parts, but first we'll play. So that's our clarinet. So we're going to start from the bottom up. So at the bottom of our instrument, many band instruments have this. They have something called a bell, and a bell is the part of the instrument that flares out. So the bottom part of your instrument is the bell. This is the bell. Then we have these two bigger pieces of your clarinet. So here's the top piece, here's the bottom piece. We take them apart. We actually press this little key, and on your clarinet, when you get it, it'll have a little red mark on there to show you that you need to press that down, because what that red key does is it moves. Oh, can we see it? See that lever? It moves that lever. If that lever is not up when you try to put your clarinet together, it can bend, and that means that your clarinet won't work. So we always press that sign. So these two pieces have very creative names. This is the top joint, and this is the bottom joint of your clarinet. Top joint, bottom joint, top joint, bottom joint. So we had our bell for top and bottom joint. To put them together, I press this right here. It lifts this little lever. You can see it moving a little bit. And I always twist. I never push, I always twist. You never want to force anything on your instrument. You want to be really careful. And you might have noticed between those two joints, and then right here at the bottom, and right here on the top, we have this material, and this is called cork. And cork is what holds the sections of your clarinet together. And cork needs to be moisturized, just like your skin when you get older, and you want it to look nice and young. So what we use to moisturize it, and this is really important, because if this cork dries out, then it actually peels and falls off, which means your instrument won't go together. So we use something called Cork Grease. It can come in this little tube that looks kind of like chapstick. Sometimes it comes in a little round container like that. But what we actually do is we take our finger, and we rub it in. And if you have a newer clarinet, like if you were renting and you get a new clarinet, you're gonna have to do this a lot at the beginning because your corks will be pretty stiff. So we put our Cork Grease on all of the joints. And if you've got a newer clarinet, you're going to have to do that a bunch of times. And then, so we had our bell, we have our bottom joint and our top joint. So I'll put those together. And again, I'm going to twist. And then the next section of our clarinet is called the barrel, because it looks like a barrel. And you might notice it's probably, the top part is a little bit skinnier than the bottom part, just barely. It's a little bit wider at the bottom. Okay, so this is our lovely barrel. So then I take my barrel, and I put it on the rest of my top joint, my bottom joint, and my bell. And then the next part of our instrument actually has 3 pieces. So I'm going to take all of those off. So the very top part, this is called your mouthpiece. And you can see again it has cork, so it's another place you'll need to put cork grease. For me, I have a little mouthpiece patch, and some of you may have mouthpiece patches on your mouthpiece. And that's just to help cushion your teeth a little bit. Because when you play the clarinet, you actually anchor up the weight of the clarinet on your teeth. Okay, so that's why that's on there. On the back, you see there's an opening, and I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so this is our mouthpiece. That's where our mouth goes. Then we have this lovely silver item that is called a ligature. And sometimes there are different types of ligatures. You might have a ligature that's black and has a screw on it, one screw, or most of you will probably have ones that look like these. So that ligature is what's going to hold your reed on your clarinet. So mouthpiece, ligature, reed. And reeds are the only way that your instrument will actually play. So you get this very expensive, fragile instrument, and then you still need this little tiny piece of wood to play. And to make a reed work, we have to make it wet. And we have to make all of it wet, not just the part that's going to go in our mouth. So when I'm putting my clarinet together, I often soak my reed in my mouth. I turn around, so all of it's getting wet. You can see it's very thin at the end. Do you guys see? Oops, there's my camera. See how thin that is? So reeds are pretty fragile. We have to take good care of them. If a reed gets chipped, we just throw it away because it's not going to work. So what I do is you can see my reed has a flat side and a curved side. I'm going to take the flat side of my reed. I'm going to bring my ligature up a little bit. I'm going to slide my reed in just like that. I'm just going to make sure there's a tiny, 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 tiny sliver of black right there. Do you see that? Just as tiny a sliver. I'm going to pull my ligature down, and to loosen my ligature, I have to undo the screws. I never want to take the screws out of the ligature, but I'm going to unscrew them. Okay, so I've got that. Do-do-do-do-do-do. And then on your clarinet, I'm actually going to be marking right there. So you want to make sure your ligature is always below those two little silver lines I marked. So my ligature, I tightened it up. So when I go to grab my reed, it's not moving. If you went to grab your ligature and it came right off, that would be too loose. And you can see my ligature is right in the center of my clarinet. Make sure I turn, you can see that. Look at that. All right, and my screws go to that side. Oops, and I did mine a little bit crooked. So I'm gonna make sure it's centered just like that. And then I put my bottom looks like this, so I'm going ee-oo. My teeth are on top. Everything around here comes around, and it sounds like this. It's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard in your life, no doubt, okay? So that is our mouthpiece, our ligature, and our reed. Now I'm going to put it on the rest of my clarinet. Am I going to push or am I going to twist? I'm always going to twist. You never want to push, so I'm going to twist it on. And then if you notice, I've got all my parts together. On the back side of your clarinet, I'm going to have these little red marks. And the reason I'm going to have these little red marks is so everything lines up and is centered. So I'm going to mark that on your clarinet so you guys know all that's going to happen in a straight line. If I go to play my clarinet, okay, so that's how my clarinet sounds. So my clarinet's a woodwind. I have my bell, the bottom joint, top joint, barrel, mouthpiece, ligature, and reed. And your secret word for your video, you may want to pause this after I say it so you can go write down. The secret word is potato. The secret word is potato. So go write that word down, pause this video, go write it down in your band folder because you're going to need that word to prove that you watched your clarinet video. And then you'll get those clarinets next week. All right, have a great time, clarinet players. Bye.